Square-Enix has had quite a week. On one hand, there is general excitement and interest over the Kingdom Hearts reveal. On the other hand, there is disappointment and mockery over the subpar Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers release. It was a week of highs and lows. In fact, Square Enix in general seems to be nothing but highs and lows. Here's my list of the top 5 highs and lows of Square Enix as a company. Please keep in mind that on this list I counted everything before the Squaresoft-Enix merger in 2003 as the same as what came out post-merger. It may not technically be accurate, but it is what it is. 5th high, Kingdom Hearts series. You know how I said the Kingdom Hearts 4 reveal was a high point this week? Kingdom Hearts is still the next thing you think of when you hear of Square Enix, at least internationally. Dragon Quest is still more popular in Japan, but we didn't start getting those over here regularly until after Dragon Quest VIII on the PS2. Mixing JRPG aesthetics with Disney characters and settings had no business working out as well as it did, but they pulled it off perfectly, except 5th low, trying to play Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is one of the hardest series to try and play start to finish. To the non-initiated, they would look at Kingdom Hearts 4 and be like, oh, all I have to do is just play Kingdom Hearts 1 through 3 and I'll be caught up. Oh, you poor bastard. Nope. Not only do you have to play 1 through 3, but every prequel and game in between the main one. Here's a chart. Notice the handful of games between 1 and 2? That's because you can't just go from 1 to 2. The actual sequel to 1 is Chain of Memories. Also notice how these games were released across different systems. All this shit wasn't on PlayStation where Kingdom Hearts originated. To get the full story, you'd have to go on the GBA, the 3DS, the DS, and the PSP. Eventually they ported everything over in 3 different collections, which eventually became just one Ultra Collection, so in the end, they made it easy. They just took 20 years to do it. 4th high, Dissidia, Final Fantasy, and Dissidia Duodecium. If you watch my Final Fantasy VII Midgard playthrough, then you know how I feel about straight-up turn-based RPGs. So I was thrilled to play Dissidia and a sequel on PSP. To this day, I've played those games more than any Final Fantasy game to date. Dissidia was a crossover arena brawler with some RPG elements tossed in. It had a fun story mode and tons of extra content. It was a blast. Definitely worth the money to buy the cable to hook it up to a TV. If you have a PSP, get this game immediately. 4th low, Dissidia NT. Imagine you are a fan of Dissidia, and you get the news that not only is there going to be a new entry, but it looks like this, on a TV. Then they decide to fuck it all up by having a restricted, awkward story mode, and changing the battle system to a 3-on-3 instead of 1-on-1. So in Japan there was an arcade version of Dissidia that was 3-on-3 just like this. Dissidia NT is basically a port of that. I'm not gonna lie, if this is what a new Dissidia is going to be, then I would rather have nothing. Just port the PSP games, please. 3rd high, Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. I'm not an MMO player, but if I was going to start playing one, it would probably be this one. FF14 A Realm Reborn is a launch of FF14 with vast improvements over the previous version, and it's just a standout MMO in general. I can't speak too much on it since I haven't played it myself, but what I've been hearing from friends and what I've been seeing from each expansion that comes out, I can easily see how this game knocked World of Warcraft off its perch. FF14 is great and one of Square Enix's biggest successes in recent years. But, just to illustrate the point of this list, 3rd low, Final Fantasy XIV. Oh boy, did they ever fuck this one up. Realm Reborn only came about because the base version of 14 was a trash fire. Here's a quick rundown of what went wrong. Horrible lag, bad EXP distribution, shitty optimization, slow performance, bare bones content, bad UI, etc. Eventually it got better when they put this guy at the helm, and he managed to turn it all around and made 14 what it is today. Yoshi P is also directing Final Fantasy XVI, so get hyped folks. 2nd high, classic games return. I always love it when companies pull from their back catalog and give us classics with modern improvements, or go the extra mile and give us something that never made it to the States. Square has been doing a fine job of keeping their legacy alive. Hell, even earlier this year they announced re-releases of Live Alive and Front Mission. Those are some deep cuts. Let's hope that Square continues these efforts because there is still a slew of Square Enix games out there that's dying for a re-release. Second low. New games are a hot mess. Oh god, almost everything is a shit show. The Avengers was ill-conceived on just about every front. Outriders is dead. Chocobo GP is a monetization nightmare not unlike Gran Turismo 7. And the less said about Babylon's Fall, the better. There were successes, sure. Guardians of the Galaxy, Nier, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Endwalker ended up doing really good work for Square-Enix. But outside of those games, the rest were bombs, and in the case of Avengers and Babylon, they were costly and very high profile. Here's hoping they keep the bombs to a minimum going forward. First high, Final Fantasy series. Oh come on, it's what they're known for. This is obvious, so I'm going to be very brief about this. No matter your opinions on the series or which ones you think are better than the others, nobody can deny that Final Fantasy has left an indelible mark on RPGs and gaming as a whole. Just saying the name Final Fantasy stirs up feelings from joy, to anger, to laughter, nostalgia, and excitement. You don't become one of the most internationally recognized brands on the planet unless you did something right along the way. However, first low, Final Fantasy series. The only way Final Fantasy came about was because Square was failing as a company, and Hironobu Sakaguchi had one last Hail Mary to turn it around. A few months of grinding later, and we have the game we know and love today. Originally it was going to be called Fighting Fantasy, but a little bit of gallows humor got thrown in and was called Final Fantasy instead. And by final, I mean final as in, if this shit doesn't work out, our company is dead. Obviously, it all worked out in the end. But you can't get much lower than one game to make or break you. It's really inspiring when you think about it. When we are at our lowest point, we can somehow pull success out of the darkness of failure. Either that or Square just works like a beast under pressure.